This is part 2 of my video about insults. So, what I failed to mention in my previous video is that an insult, regardless of whether it has historical context, like the N-word with a hard R, I mean, many people consider it, whether it has a hard R or not, to be the same word, but it obviously is two different words these days, because one you can say in front of certain people in certain contexts, and others you almost can't unless you're using it in very specific contexts, and even then people will get offended. That's why I'm using the N-word instead of actually saying the word, because then this video would pretty much just get restricted. But a word only has as much power as you give it. If you choose to be offended by that word, if you think that, you know, you're being called the N-word and that you, since you're a black person, basically are losing your humanity somehow because of this word, you're letting it get to you, and more importantly, for some reason, you're thinking that your race is a bad thing. That is not true. You also have to consider the fact that, I mean, insults are insults, and they're not always trying to actually... What I'm trying to say is, if a black person can call a white person a racial slur in a way that is not racist, then the same can be done in the reverse. And honestly, I think that people just give words too much power. They really do. They like, if this video weren't at risk of being restricted, I would use the N-word, even though I cringe every time inside when I use the word, because I don't want to give it more power. And I feel like by saying the N-word, I am giving it more power. So, I really take issue with that, and I think that people too often are like, well, this word has a historical context, and this other word doesn't, or it doesn't have as much of a historical significance. You know, maybe one word does have a historical significance and the other one doesn't, but what really matters is whether you take offense to that word. And if you're offended, that's it. That's the extent to which that word affects you. You're offended, and at that point, if you cry about it, if you go on an emotional tangent about it, that's something of your own doing. Because when you see something like that, you can ultimately decide whether you want to be offended by it or not. I mean, to a degree you can. You might get hurt a little bit inside, but if you choose to not let it affect you, it will affect you less, and it will have less power, and overall, I think people will not even try to use the N-word as a derogatory word if people actually say it. If people actually get over this weird taboo of these words. It's really stupid, in my opinion, to let words have so much control over you. So yeah, these are some of my opinions regarding freedom of speech and certain things going on YouTube.